Okay, good morning everyone. Ms. Ugulo here. We are going to revise the question papers that you have written and the leaked ones, so just to prepare you for tomorrow. And we are going to start with paper 1. Okay. Now paper 1, the first question, so we have the list of numbers, and A, we want to give a negative integer. Now remember, an integer is a positive or negative whole number. So among the list there, so we have -2. So our answer there is -2. And then for B, we go for an irrational number. Now remember, an irrational number is a number which cannot be written as a fraction. So among all these numbers, we have square root of 250. And then C, we need a square number. Square numbers, we have 36, and a prime number, a number with only 2 factors here, we have 29. Okay, then we move on to question 2. We want to find the missing number to make the two fractions equivalent. Now for equivalent, we need to get, now say for instance there you are given 35 out of 34. That is a complete fraction. What you need to do, you just press on your calculator 35 over 84, and then if the number down gives you 12, that means the top number is your answer, and in this case we have a 5. Okay, and now but suppose the number at the bottom was not 12, was something else, then that means you need to divide a complete one. You can see for the blank and the 35, that is not complete. So 12 and 84, that means you need to find a number which you can divide by 84 to give you 12. And that number you just press on your calculator, 84 you divide by 12, then you get 7. That means here divide by 7, you will get 12, and here you should also divide by 7, that gives you 5. Right. Then we go to question 3. Work out 34% of 1,500. And remember, off means times. That means you have 34 out of 100, then you multiply with 1,500, and that gives us 510. Okay. You go to question 4. Factorize completely. Now remember, we have different ways of factorizing. We have a common factor, but as you can see there, we don't have something common. So that means common factor is out. And then you have grouping. Remember, we only group in 2's, and this is already 2 terms. That means you can't group further. Then we have a trinomial. Trinomial means you should have 3 terms, but here we only have 2, meaning trinomial is also out. The only factorization which is left is a difference between 2 squares. And you can see I have 64 is a square number. And look at the powers, I have even numbers. How do we factorize? For the variables, we have the powers, and for the numbers, we take square roots. Now with p square, if I have 2, I only get p, because it's p power 1. And I put the minus. Now 64 is a number. I need to press on the calculator square root of 64. That gives me 8. W square, if you have the 2, you get only W. Now it's a difference between 2 squares. In one bracket you have that, then you open another bracket, you have P, but with a minus, now here you put a plus, so you have 8W. Right. Okay, then we move on to question 8. Question 8, there we have simplify. Remember, when we simplify, we need to collect like terms. So I have 3y with 8y. I write them together. So I have 3y minus 8y. The next one, I have minus x plus 2x. Then you simplify. 3, remember, we don't do anything to the letters. We only do the numbers. 3 minus 8, that gives me -5, and then the y. And remember, the sign in front of a term is for that term. So therefore here, this is -1 plus 2, and that gives us +1x. So you either write it like that, or you can also write it as x minus 5y. Great. So you will move on to question 6. Question 6. Question 6, if I move it down. right? So we have work out the value of that. So, and remember, first, before you attempt the question, look at the marks allocated. That question is only 1 mark. Whether you have shown you're working or not, you just get that answer. I mean, you just get that 1 mark. So what you do now here, you press your fraction button, put in the number as there appears. Okay? So you have a fraction, then you have 5.1 plus 3.3. Bring the case down, so you have 5.1 minus 2.7. If you do that, you will get 3.5. So our answer is 3.5. Hope you got that one. Question 7. Write 379.78959 correct to 2 decimal places. Okay, here our second decimal is what? Is 8. The number after 8 is 9, which means it can round that 8 up. So we write 379.79. Okay, and then we go to B. B is the nearest 10. Our nearest 10 here is what? So 3 is 100, so 7 is our tens. So you underline the 7, and then the number after 7 is 9, which means that 9 can round 7 up, and then you have 3, 8. But now that cannot just be the answer. So you need to add the 0 to maintain the place value. So it becomes 380. Do not add anything else. Where you stopped is where you stopped. Okay? So we have 380 there. So we go to question 8. Question 8, we need to write that as a single fraction. But now writing as a single fraction, remember you have to look at the denominators. If the two numbers are different, you need to multiply each fraction with the other one's denominator. Like in this case, so we multiply 5 with the whole of the first fraction. Okay, so we'll have 5 brackets 3x plus 4. Even down, we have 3 times 5. Then we say minus the 3, we multiply with x plus 2. Even down the 5, we need to multiply it with 3. Okay? Now, and then expand. So this one will give us 15x plus 20 over 15. And then here you have, now the minus now becomes the sign for 3. So it will be negative 3 times x, that gives us negative 3x. And negative 3 times positive 2, that gives us negative 6 out of 15. Now we have the same denominator. What we do now, we just collect like terms up. I'll continue here. So we have 15 minus 3x. 15x minus 3x, and then the other one will have 20 minus 6, so plus 20 minus 6, and that will give us now what? Everything will be out of 15. So if you simplify up, you will have 12x, 20 minus 6 will give us 14, and everything out of 15, and that is our answer. Okay, so I repeat, you look at the denominators first. If they are different, that means you need to multiply this fraction with a 5 and this whole fraction with the 3. And be careful of the sign. It was a minus, but now it became the sign for the 3. So when you multiply out, so it's not just 3, it will be negative 3 times whatever is in bracket. Right, we continue to question 9. We need to write the following numbers in order of size. Smallest first. Now you can see these are all fractions, but they don't have the same denominator. If they were having same denominator, then we just check the tops. The smaller one we start like that. But now in this case, it's better to change to one form, which is either decimals or percentage. I prefer percentage because they are easier to work with. So you change 3 over 5 to percentage. That means you have 3 over 5 times 100. And then you have 17 over 30 also times 100, and then you have 7 out of 12 also times 100. If you do that, you will get the first one will get 60%, and then the next one you get 56.7%, one decimal place, and 58.3 also to 1%. So which number here now is the smallest? So you can see the 56.7 is smallest. But now you don't write that. That one represents 17 out of 30. So you write the original numbers. So you write 17 out of 30. The next smallest is 58%, and that represents 7 over 12. So you have 7 out of 12. And then the biggest one here is 3 out of 5. So you don't write the numbers that you have converted. You need to write the original numbers, yeah? Okay, then we move on to question 10. Okay, question 10, we have a house was built in 2009 at a cost of 285,000, and in 2017 the house was sold at 395,000. Calculate the percentage increase in the price of the house from 2009 to 2017. Now, before you go to percentage, you need to know by how much has it increased. How do we get our increase? So from the 395,000, you need to get out 200 or to take out 285,000, and that gives us how much? That gives us 110,000. Now, to get the percentage increase, so the percentage increase will now be the increase out of the cost. Is always out of the original, then you multiply by 100. How much is our increase? So we have 110,000. We divide with the cost. How much did it cost? This was the cost price. So we have 285,000. Then we multiply by 100. Okay, if you calculate that one, you get 38.6%. Okay, percent is already there, so we don't need to write this percent. Okay, so now but remember how I advised you, whenever the answer is not exact, you should always write it with more decimals, and then you can round to 3SF. So like here I just don't have space, but as you write your answer first with more decimals before you round it off to 3SF. Right, the next page we have question 10. Question 11. Question 11, so find the value of a if 2 to the power of a is equal to 54. Now, you cannot write 54 as a power of 2. And even if it was the case, so the fastest way to get this answer is to use logarithms. We use the power law, bring down the a, and then you take logs on both sides. Then you have log 54. Now, for you to get a, divide by log 2. Also here you divide by log 2. Remember what you do on one side, you do to the other side. And that gives us what? This gives us 5.75488 dot dot. To 3SF, that gives us 5.75. Okay. Then we go to question 12. A regular polygon has exterior angles of 24. Calculate the number of sides of this polygon. Now, exterior is outside. What do we know about the sum of the exterior angle? If I add up all the exterior angles, I'll have to get 360. Now, if each angle is 24, I'll divide by 24, and then that'll give me the number of sides. And that is 15 sides. Easy, né? Right, then we go to question 13. Question 13, one night, the temperature at point A is recorded as negative 18 degrees Celsius, and the following day it rises by 6 degrees Celsius. Find the temperature at point A on the following day. If something has risen, so what do you do? Is that a minus or a plus? To rise means it has gone up. So it means from the to the negative 18 degrees Celsius, you plus 6. And then if you do the calculations, that will give us negative 12. Question 14. Question 14, we have workout. So we have 3.1 times 10 to the power negative 3 minus 3.1 times 10 to the power negative 4. Give your answer, or giving your answer in standard form. Like this is just calculator use. But now, instead of 10 times that, remember on our calculator, we have that next to just Okay, now like I was saying, so here this is just a calculator use. What you do, you press 3.1. Now instead of saying times 10 to the power negative 3, you see between the decimal point and answer, there is times 10 with power x. That means you just press 3.1, then times that 10, then you just put power, which is now the negative 3. So what you press is 3.1, and then the time is 10 power x, and then there you just go to negative 3, and you say minus 3.1 again, that time is 10, and then you go to negative 4. If you do that one, your answer will be some calculator already give in decimal notation, but some you might get 0.00279. But now since you are told to leave your answer in standard form, you move your decimal point to put between the first and the second non-zero number, which is the first and second significant, and then you have 2.79 times 10. How many places have we moved? 1, 2, 3. From here 1, 2, and 3. So that is negative 3 because it started with 0. Okay. Or you can still put your calculator on a different mode, but that might be complicated. So, but if you just have it like that, just move your decimal point, put it between the first and the second significant figure, and then you count how many places you have moved. If the number started with 0, your power is going to be negative. If your number is a whole number that did not start with 0, then it's a positive index. Okay, then we go on to the next question, which is question now 15. So we have a perfume is sold in a cylindrical bottle. The height of the bottle h is inversely proportional to the square of the radius. When r is 5, h is 8, find an equation connecting h and r. Now, inversely proportional. Now, I would write this as the height. I'll write the height. Now, proportional, inverse means is 1 over r square of the radius is r square. But now this is not in equation. This is just a proportionality. This is for inverse. Now, if it was direct, I would just write r squared because it's not inverse, it's 1 over something. It's an inverse. Now, this is for direct. But we do not want direct. We don't want this. We want inverse. So what you do, now you need to remove this proportionality, but because when two quantities are proportional, there should be a rate of proportionality. In this case, we will have h equals k, which is now that constant, over r squared. That is our general equation, but we are given that r is 5, h is 8. We need to get how much is this. So you substitute where there is h, you put 8, and k remains, and then r is 5, you square it. Put over 1, cross multiply to get your k. So which implies that our k is 8 times 5 square, and that gives us 200. Our k is 200, but we do not want k. We want to find an equation which connects these two. So therefore, we now go back to our this equation to say, so I have h is k over r squared, but I know now k is 200. That means my equation becomes h equals 200 over r squared. I want you to differentiate between the square of something and square root. When it's square root, that's when you use this symbol for square root, but for square, we just put power 2, okay? Right. Then we move on to the next page. The next page, we have question, we have question 16. We have these people, George, Charlie, and Roy, that earned 600 for doing some gardening. So they share the money in the ratio 3 to 5 to 2 respectively. Now, the first number is for the first person, the second number is for the second person, the third number is for the third person. So which means if I have 3 to 5 to 2, this one is for George, this one is for Charlie, and this one is for Roy. Now, if I want to now get the amount that Charlie got, Charlie's ratio is 5. Now, they are sharing. When you are sharing, first you need to find your total ratio. So we need to get our total ratio. In this case, we have 3 plus 5 plus 2. That gives us 10. So if I want to get how much Charlie received, so I'll write the 5, which is for Charlie, and then over 10, then I multiply with 600. And if you do that calculation, you will get that Charlie got 300. Okay, let's just put the unit. Okay, then we go to question 17. Calculate. Calculate means you can use your calculator, but you need to show your work. Now, because there's only 2 marks, either you expand, multiply 5/7 times each one of this, and then you simplify your answer, or first 5/7, then you get the answer in here. So if I do that, I'll have 5/7 brackets. Now there you press on your calculator 1/9 plus 1/2, and that gives us 11/18. Now you take your calculator, you multiply out, so you have that answer, you multiply by 5/7. Okay, and that gives us 55/126. So 1 mark will be for that, and then for the final answer. Or you can have 5/7 times 9, that gives us 5/63, I think. And then this one will give us 5/7 times a half, that will give us 5/14. And then you work this one out to get that that one 55/126. Then we move on to question 18. Simplify 32 power x times 8 to the power x minus 1 over 4 to the power x plus 1, giving your answer as a power of 2. So which means we need to leave our answer as 2 power something. Okay, now you can see now the 32, the 8, and the 4, these are all powers of 2. So what you do, you factorize them. How do you factorize 32? You press on your calculator 32, then you go to equal sign, and then you go to shift fact. If you check the time button, under the time button there is fact. That fact means factorize. You can factorize a number like that, writing it as either power of a number or as a product of prime factors. That is to factorize it. So now if you press now 32 equal sign, then you go to shift and then fact at the time button, that will give you 2 to the power 5. Now because there is that x still remains there. Then you say that dot means times. I hope you remember that. Then you do the same again for 8. Factorize 8. You press 8 on the calculator and then equal sign. You go to shift and then fact at that time button, and that gives you 2 to the power 3. But now because there is this, that means you are also going to put that x minus 1. Okay, over the 4. You can factorize 4 also. That will give you 2 to the power 2. But there is this, so you have x plus 1. Hope we are all together. Then from there, remember now, I will just expand this. I'll have 2 to the power 5x times 2 to the power. If I expand this one, I'll have 3 times x, which is 3x, and 3 times -1 gives me -3, over 2. If I expand this bracket, I will have 2x plus 2. Okay, and then now from here, I know if I multiply the same base, what do? We plus the powers. Okay, so this one will give me 2, just the same base, and then you have 5x plus this power is 3x minus 3 over 2 to the power 2x plus 2. If you simplify up, you have 2 to the power 8x minus 3, and down you have 2 to the power 2x plus 2. Now we are dividing. What do we do when we divide same base? We subtract our powers. Okay, that means now I'll write 2 to the power 8, the first power minus the second power. So 8x minus, sorry, just erase this one. Okay, so we have 8x minus 3. This is now this power. I will subtract this power. The reason I'm putting brackets is because I have more than one term. And if you simplify this, okay, I'm just gonna continue this one here. So I have 2 to the power 8x minus 3. If you remove this power, this not power but brackets, that will give us negative 2x, and that negative 1 times that will give me negative 2. If you simplify now, you have 2, 8 minus 2, that will give us 6x, and 3 minus 2 will give me negative 5. Therefore, my answer is, as a power of 2, is 2 to the power 6x minus 5. Okay, so in short now, when you are given to simplify and there are numbers that are not the same, you try to factorize the numbers and simplify from there. Use the indices laws, and then simplify your answer. Leave it in the format you are asked to. Right, then we move on to question 19. Change the speed of 85 meters per second to kilometers per hour. Now, you can see, look at the units. Meter, meter, you need to change the meters to kilometers, and the seconds to hours. Now, how many meters do you have here? You have 85 meters. So that means the 85 meters, you need to convert this to kilometers. By doing what? By dividing it with 1,000, because in 1 kilometer we have 1,000 meters. Now, if you do that on the calculator, you have 85 over 1,000, and that gives me 0.085. This will now be my kilometers. How many seconds are here per second? This means just 1 second. Now you need to change that 1 second to hours by dividing what with what. Now remember, when you take from a smaller unit to a bigger unit, you always divide. And when you take from a bigger unit to a smaller unit, that's when you multiply. Now 1 second. Now you now need to convert from seconds to hours. Now you have 60 from now seconds to minute. In 1 minute you have 60 seconds, and in 1 hour you have 60 minutes. So you 60 and 60. That will be 60 times 60, which is 3,600. Now what you do now here, you have 1, you divide with 3,600. That will become now your hours. Now you to divide now this with that. So we have 0.085 kilometers. You divide with 1 over 3,600 hours. And if you do that right, you will get 306 kilometers per hour. That is one way you can do it. The other way, you can also say, well, I have 85 meter per second. I need to multiply. Now, the second should cancel with the second. The second should be the numerators. 3,600 seconds in 1 hour. And then the meters, since here this is a numerator, it should become a denominator. That means you have 1,000 kilometers per meter. Now meter and meter cancel. This and this cancel, and therefore you have no, wait, I made a mistake there. This is correct, but now here you have you multiply with 1 kilometer in 1,000 per 1,000 meter. So that meter and meter now cancel, and the second cancel. Then you have 85 times 3,000, 85 times 3,600, and then you divide with 1,000. So you still end up with the same answer. Okay. Then we move on to this question. The next question, let me just do this one in. Okay, the next question we have question 20. Tom changed 500 euros into pounds when the rate was 1 pound is equivalent to 1.17 euros. So how much did Tom receive in pounds? Okay, Now what you do here, so you say now 1 pound is 1.17. Now the euros should go under euros and the pounds. Like here, the euros should go under the euros. So you have the 500, and here you don't know how many pounds. Cross multiply, and then you have 1.17x equals to 500 divided by 1.17 divided by 1.17. And if you do that, you will get 427.35 to 2 decimal places. Okay, then we go to 21. A bus leaves Windhoek at 14:45 and arrives in Cape Town at 10:20 the next day. How long does the journey take? Give your answer in hours and minutes. Now you have 2 days here. Let's say this is now today's time at 2:15, and this is tomorrow's time. Okay, now if this is today's time, how many hours of today are left? Now in one day we have 24 hours. That means from the 24 hours subtract 14:45 to see how many hours of today are left. So you press 24, remember the time button, so 24 time button, 00 time button, then you say minus 14 time button, then 45 time button. If you do that, you will get that the remaining hours of today is 9 hours and 15 minutes. Now from 2:45 to midnight, there is 9 hours 15 minutes. Now from the midnight to 10:20, how many hours are there? So we have 10 hours 20 minutes. Now if we now have, this is the remaining, and we have this time from midnight to 10:20, there is 10 hours 20 minutes. So to get the total time, so we have the 9 hours 15 minutes, and then we plus the 10 hour 20 minutes. This you can use your calculator. 9 hour, like 9 time button, 15 time button, plus 10 time button, 20 time button. If you do that right, you will get 19 hours and 35 minutes. Great. We move on to question 22. So we have the winning time in a school 100-meter race was given as 14.6 seconds, and the length of the track, which is now 100 meters, was measured to the nearest meter, and the time t, the time of 14.6 was measured correct to 1 decimal place. Now find the lower and the upper bounds of the length of the time and the length. Now let's start with the 100 meters. The 100 meters, now remember it was given to the nearest meter. Nearest meter means 1 meter. 1 you divide by 2 because we need the lower and the upper, and then you get 0.5. To get the lower bound, you subtract 100 minus 0.5, then you get 99.5. The upper bound from 100, you add to 100, you add 0.5, then you get 100.5. This is meters. So now what you now write on the first space, that is for the lower bound, and that is the upper bound. That means here we write 99.5, and here we write 100.5. Then we go to the 14.6. This is to 1 decimal place. The 1 decimal place here, you need to find the place value. This is a tenth. A tenth means 1 over 10. A tenth is 1 over 10, which is 0.1. Now this is the number you need to divide by 2. You divide this by 2, then you get 0.05. That means if you want to get the lower bound of this, you subtract this from 14.6, and that gives me 13.56. 14.56. And if I, what am I doing? So this is 0.55. Okay, and then the upper will become 14.65. This is 5 5, okay. Or you can just see if this number, remember when you are looking for the lower bound, you want to get what was the number before rounded, and we only round when the number is 5 or more. That means what was this number before rounded? It was a 5. Which number can round 5 to 6? Is from 5, so it's 5 5, and then the other one is just, you just add that 5 at the end. Okay, then here you write 14.55, and here you write 14.65. okay, and then we go on to B. Calculate the greatest average speed of the winner. Now I'll go to speed. Okay, speed is distance over time. We know that one. Now greatest means, remember, greatest can be UB, and the minimum or the least is lower bound LB. Now if I want to get the greatest speed, that means I want to get speed UB. Now if you look at this, is a division. How do I get the UB of a division? Is the UB of the distance I divide with the time LB. If you want to get speed lower, so it's the lower over upper. If it is speed upper or greater, it to be the upper you divide by lower. So for division is the other way around. It's not like for addition where you have to get the UB is just UB plus UB. LB is LB plus LB. But when it comes to division and subtraction, that is a different story. If you want to get UB of division, it's UB, but you divide with LB. If you want to get LB of division, it's LB, but you divide with UB. Hope you get that one. So now here, I would use distance UB, which is 100.5 meters, and the time LB is 14.55. If you do that calculation, you'll get 6.9072. Continuing now to 3SF. This is our third, so I have 6.91 meter per second. Next question. We'll just zoom it. Okay, so I have used the Venn diagram to answer the following questions. A, we want to list the elements of E. Now what is E? Is the universal set. That means everything in this universal set. E is whatever is in this rectangle. Okay, so I'll start with a smaller one. So I'll say E is 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, and 9. Then you close. You write it as a set. It's the elements you are listing. Okay. B, complement. What is complement? Complement means what is not in B. If you look at 2, 6, B is this whole the circle. So what is not in this circle, we only have 1, 3, and 8. So therefore, B complement is 1, 3, and 8. Okay, and then find, then N is number, like how many. A intersect B complement. Now if you look at our set, our A intersect B, A intersect is what they have in common. This is my A intersect B. 5 and 9 is my A intersect B. Now what is not in here? What is not in here is the 2, the 3. Okay, I'll start with the smallest. It's 1, 2, 3, 6, and 8. Now N means the number. So maybe you can say A intersect B complement is 1, 2, 3, 6, and 8. This is A intersect B complement. Now N means the number. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means that is 5. Our answer is 5. N is the number, like how many. Okay, then we go on to question 24. Question 24, we have a table where you have the income tax from 300 to 500,000 and the rate of tax of the year. Okay, now Mr. Simon earned 425,000 in 2018. His allowable deduction for that year, where allowable means things that are allowed to be deducted first before income tax is paid. Now, he had a study policy of 3,450 and a pension fund which is 15,720. Now, calculate his taxable income. Now, remember when you earn, you need to pay income tax, but not the whole salary. First, we take out what we call the allowable deductions, things that are allowed to be taken out first before you calculate tax. Now, the taxable amount is the salary or the income. This is income minus the deductions. Now, whatever is left is what we call the taxable amount. That is the amount to be taxed. Now, if we do that, from the 425,000, we subtract the taxable, the allowable deductions. Now, we subtract 3,450. You also subtract 15,720. Or first add these two together, then you subtract from that. If you do that right, you will get 405,830. That is the amount to be taxed. And you can see it falls between these two. It falls between 300,000 and 500,000. How much tax will this pay? This person will pay 59,000 plus 28% of the amount exceeding 300,000. Again, we are not going to take 28% of this whole thing. So first we subtract we want to multiply only with the amount which exceeds 300,000, and you can see this amount here exceeded by how much? First, from the 405,830, take out 300,000, and how much is left is 105,830. Okay, now this person will now pay the income tax of 59,000 plus 28 over 100, 25% of the amount which exceeds, and this is the amount which exceeds 300,000, 105,830. And if you calculate this one right, you get 88,600 and 632.40, and that is your the amount. That is the answer. Okay, and then we come to the next question. We have question 25, solve the simultaneous equations. Now remember, we learned how to do this. If you find one variable with a coefficient 1, use substitution. If you find same coefficient, different signs, or same signs, use elimination. Like in this case, we can use elimination. I can use elimination because I have same coefficient. I have 1, 1, just that they have different signs. If they have different signs, I plus my two equations. So I have 5p equals 17 plus 8, that is 25. To get p, divide by 5. And then you get that p is 5. My p is 5. Now to get q, either use the first equation or the second equation, but avoid using the one with minus because sometimes you don't know how to work with signs, with a negative sign. So I will have 4p plus q equals to 17, but I know that my p is 5, so I have 4 times 5 plus q equals to 17. Then I have 20 plus q equals to 17. To get q, I'll subtract 20 from both sides, and then I'll have that q is negative 3. Okay, if you want to make sure that you have time and you want to check if your answers are correct by substituting p and q in the equations, and if they are right, then you are correct. Then we go on to the next question. The next question, solve the inequality. Now remember, to solve inequality is similar to solving equations, collect like terms. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. So I'll have negative 2x less or equals to 10 minus 8. Negative 2x is less or equals to 2. divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2. But remember, the difference is that when you divide with a negative number or multiply with a negative number from on both sides, so you need to change you need to reverse the inequality. Like in this case, I would say my x is greater or equal to negative 1. So x is greater or equals to negative 1. And the good thing with inequality, if you want to check if it is correct, take any number which is more than negative 1. That means on the right of negative 1. Take 0 for instance. If you put 0 here, you have 8 minus 0, which is 8. And 8 is less than 10. But suppose I did not change this inequality and get x is less than negative 1. That would be negative 2, negative 3 to the left. If you put negative 2 here, you have 8 minus negative 2 times negative 2, which is 4. And 8 plus 4 will give you 12. And 12 is not less or equals to 10. So always check if your answer makes sense. Question 27. F of x is given as 6 plus root x for the numbers greater than or equals to 0. Find the inverse. Remember, when there's a minus 1 up there, it means find the inverse of f. So how do we usually get the inverse? F of x is the same as y. So we are going to rewrite this in terms of y. So we have y equals to 6 plus root x. I want x. No. We swap the variables. So I'll have x equals to 6 plus root of y. Solve for y. If I solve for y, that means 6 should come here. So subtract x from both sides. So you have x minus 6 equals to root of y. If you want to get rid of the root, what do? The inverse of square root is square. Square both sides. And then you have x minus 6 square equals to 2y. That means that is your inverse. Then you write f inverse of x is x minus 6 square. Okay. Then we go to question 28. Find the quotient when this 8x cubed plus 10x squared plus 9x minus 8 is divided by 2x minus 1. Okay, I don't know, maybe you are comfortable with long division or you are comfortable with a synthetic method, which is the short method. I'm going to use both. So if I divide, first if I use the synthetic method, I'll have to write down the coefficients. So I'll have 8. First I check if all the powers are there, power 3, power 2, power 1. Okay, so I have 8, 10, 9, negative 8. Then I make my table, and then I solve 2x minus 1 equals to 0. So which means 2x is 1 divided by 2. So I'll have x as a half. Okay, I'll put a half here, drop the first term, that is 8, multiply, that gives me 4, plus is 14, multiply half of 14 is 7, plus is 16, half of 16 is 8, plus is 0. Now this will now become, now you can see the coefficient of x here is not 1, so which means we can't leave our answer like this. So we need to divide with the coefficient here. So I'll divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2, only the quotient, not the remainder. Remainder remains. So then I'll write 4, and then here I have 7, and here I have 8, which means now I write down with the x, but in the descending order. Not the power should reduce by 1. So I'll have 4x squared plus 7x plus 8. This is my quotient, and there's no remainder. So I have 4x squared plus 7x plus 8. That is synthetic method. Now I'm going to use the the long division, just for those that follow long division method. Now what you do, you write down your I have x cubed plus 10x squared plus 9x minus 8, and then here I put 2x minus 1. Now here we only divide with the one with x with the variable. So like 8x cubed, you divide 8x cubed, you divide with 2x. If you divide, you get 4. X into here, x cancel with one of these, 2 are left, so you have 4x squared. Then you multiply 4x square, you multiply with 2x minus 1. If you do that, then you multiply out, you get 8x cubed, and 4x squared times negative 1 will give you negative 4x square. Then you subtract. Here you subtract. Okay, if I subtract, this will give me 0. 10 minus negative 4, that will give me 14x squared. Then I drop, because I'm working with 2 terms, I should have 2 terms also. I drop this one. Then I divide 14x squared, I divide with 2x. This one goes in 7. X cancel with one of these, so x is left. And then I multiply out 7x, I multiply with 2x minus 1. That will give me 14x squared. 7x times negative 1 is minus 7x. Subtract, this will give me 0. 9 minus negative 7, that will give me 16x. Drop the last term. Then now you have 16x, you divide by 2x. 2 into 16 is 8. X and x, they cancel, there is no x. Then you multiply 8 with 2x minus 1. If you multiply out, you have 16x, and that will be minus 8. Subtract, this will give me 0, this will also give me 0. So that means the top number here is my quotient, which is just the same as that we used with synthetic. Now the good thing with long division is when this is not 1, whatever you get is just your answer. But with synthetic, if this coefficient of the divisor is not 1, that means you need to divide your quotient with that coefficient of the divisor. Right. Then next we go to question 29. Question 29. Okay. Question 29 says, hope you can still see. The region R satisfies the following inequalities. Okay. Now we need the region that satisfies the following inequalities. So we have y greater or equals to 3, y greater less or equals to x plus 2, and x plus y less or equals to 5. Okay. Now the two lines are already drawn, so I hope you can see there is this line and there is this line. Now if you look at these 3, which line do you think represents each? This line here is just, this is just the same as you have y equals to 3, and that is the line y equals to 3 is that one, this one. Okay, then this one is just a line y equals x plus 2, and if you can see, this line here is in a general straight line. So where you have the gradient is 1 and the y-intercept is 2, that means it cuts at 2. So this should be this line. Okay, now we have the line x plus y equals to 5. Now with this line we need to draw another line on the grid. Now to draw the line with only 2 variables is quite easy. So what you do, you just put x0 to get the y-intercept, and that will give, if I put x0, so now I have y, when x is 0, y will be 5. That means it will cut the y-axis at 5. So, and then I plot this point. Okay, and then if I want to know where it will cut the x-axis, I need to substitute y with 0. So if I put y 0, that means my x is going to be 5. That means it will cut x at 5, and then again I go and plot x 5. Now what I do now, I take my ruler and draw a straight line joining 5 and 5. Okay. Sorry. Joining 5 and 5. Okay, like that. And this is the line x plus y equals to 5. Remember, when you label the line, you don't label with inequality. And this is the line y equals to 3, and this one is the line y equals to x plus 2. Okay, then hence label r is just the region which is now bounded by the 3, by this line, and that. So that means our r will be this one. Okay, which is now with all the 3 lines. Right, then from there we go to the next question, which is question 30. P, Q, R, and S are points on the circumference of the circle with center O. Calculate angle SPQ. SPQ. We want to get this angle. Okay, and if you can see, can you remember the sign? Can you remember this? We talked about this. We learned about that shape. So this angle here is twice that. So which means if I know the angle at the center, I halve it to get the angle at the circumference. Or if I know the angle on the circumference, I double it to give me the angle at the center. So the angle at the center is twice the angle on the circumference. Therefore, to get this angle, we have 114, and that gives us we have 114 divided by 2, and that gives us 57. So which means that that angle is 57 degrees. Then we go to B, angle SRQ. SRQ is this angle. Okay. Now, if you now look at the 4 points, they are on a circumference. So this whole thing here, all of them are on the circumference, and that gives us what? A cyclic quadrilateral. So which means if all the 4 points are on the circumference, then the opposite angles are supplementary. So we know that this angle here is 57. The opposite one, that means this angle and this angle, if I add, they should give me 180. So if I want to get these angles, I'll say from 180, I subtract 57, and this angle will give me 123. Okay, so we go on to question 31. 31a, we are given the vectors m to n as 3, -1, and the vector n to p as -2, 4. Calculate twice np. Twice np means multiply np with 2. So what you do, you say 2 -2 times -2, 4. You multiply both numbers by 2, and that gives me -4 -4, 8. Okay, and then adding this vector plus that vector, you have 3, -1, then you say plus -2, 4. You add the tops, you add the bottoms. 3 plus -2, that gives me 1, and -1 plus 4, that gives me 3. Okay, next page. Next question, we have B. In triangle OAY, B is the midpoint of OY. This is halfway, and X is also halfway of OA. O to B is B, and O to X is A. Okay. Now, write in terms of A and B, the vector A to Y. I want to go from A to Y. So how do I go? I go so from A to Y, I go A to O plus O to Y. What is from A to O? Now remember, if this is A, this is halfway, this means this is also A. This is B, and that is half, which means that is also B. So from here to here will give me 2 A's, but now I'm going in the reverse direction. So it should give me -2A. And then this will now be B. Okay, if this whole thing will be 2A, and that will be 2B. So if you are going in the opposite direction, you change the sign. If you are going in the same direction, you keep the sign. And then O to A, we are in the same direction. That means it's plus 2B. So you can either leave it like that, or you can say it's 2B minus 2A. But it does not matter which one you write first. Okay, then we go to B. Roman 2, sorry. Roman 2, we want to go from B to X. Let me just pull this one down. From B to X, from B to X. So B to X, we go BO, and then we say OX. BO, we are going in the opposite direction, is negative B, and OA, we are in the same, OX, we are in the same direction, is plus A. You either leave it like that, or you can say it's A minus B. Right, we go to question 32. Okay, so we are given the bearing of y from x is 0.23, that means this angle is 23. Find the bearing of b of x from y. Of x from y, we need to stand at y from the north, and then we go clockwise. We are here at y, so we move north of y until we are able to see x. We want to know how much is that angle. Now there are two ways you can do. Either get this angle, which we know now these are two co-interior angles, the sum should be 180. So you can either say from 180 subtract 23, and that gives us 157 there. Then you say from 360 subtract, because it's complete revolution, minus 157, and that gives us 203. Or you can say, because this is north and that is north, these two are alternate angles. This angle and that angle, they are forming a Z shape. Can you see that? This is also 23. And you can see from here to here, it's a straight angle, it's 180. You can also say it's 180 degrees plus 23, and that gives us also 203. Actually, that is the easiest one. So we have the diagram shows a solid formed by a cylinder of radius 6 and length of 22 joined to a hemisphere of radius 6. Calculate the total volume. Now here we have two objects. You have a cylinder and you have a hemisphere. A hemisphere is half of the sphere. You can see it's like it's cut half, like a ball, you cut it half. Okay, so now you want the volume that you are given here is for a full sphere, like a full ball. But now a hemisphere, you need to halve this one. So for a hemisphere, the volume for a hemisphere will be a half times 4/3, a half of the sphere. So because it's a hemi means half. Okay, so now here we are going to get the total volume. That will be now the volume of a cylinder plus the volume of a hemisphere. Volume of an object is of a cylinder, it's a base area, which is pi r square. Base is a circle, and then we multiply with the height of the cylinder, plus now for the hemisphere, which is now this, it's a half of 4/3 pi r cube. If you substitute, you have pi times the radius is 6 square times 22 plus a half of this will give me just, this is 2/3, a half of 4/3, yeah, 2/3. So we have 2/3 pi times 6 cube. You don't have to do one by one. Press everything as it appears on your calculator, and that should give us a total of 936 pi. You are not allowed to leave your answer in terms of pi unless they stated it, but if they don't, then you need to leave it to the required degree of accuracy, which is 2940.53 ... to 3SF, this is just 2940. Okay, that's that, and then we go to the next question. Okay, now question 34, we need to draw the locus of points inside the triangle, which are 4 centimeters from A. What you do now, you take your ruler and take your compass. Take your compass and set it to 4 centimeters. Let me just get my compass. Okay. Set your compass to 4 centimeters. And then you place it at A. 4 centimeters. And then you place it at A. And then you just make an you just draw. I don't know if you'll be able to draw. Okay, so I hope you understand. So you put your compass at 4, and then you draw an arc, which will be maybe something. Let's see if I can draw this one. 4 centimeters. Okay, it's not getting. Let me see, black. Okay, this is sharp, it will not. Okay, so that means 4 centimeter, maybe around somewhere here. And then from there, you equidistance from AB and BC, that is now the angle bisector. You set your compass to a reasonable distance, put the pin at B, cut this arm, cut here, and you also cut here. And then you put where you cut, put your compass, then you draw new arcs, maybe like that, and then maybe like that. And then you draw your line going from that, going to the angle. Hope you still remember that. Now, you need now to shade the region inside the triangle, which is more than 4. That means you should not shade within the arc, should be more than 4. From A and nearer to BC, then to BA. Now this line here divides AB and BC. On this side is for AB and on this side is for BC. So it should be on the side of BC. So what you do, you shade on the side of BC, but more than 4 centimeters. Don't go beyond, don't go it should be away from the arc of 4 centimeters. So it's not accurate, but it should be on that side. Okay, then go to the next question. Question 35. 30 students were asked if they liked coffee. The results were recorded and presented on the tree diagram. Okay, so we have the male and the female. Male liked coffee, the probability is that, and you need to find now the missing ones. Now to complete, remember a branch should give us 1. So if this is, if male, it's 13 out of 30, that means female is what? Female is 17. Sorry, it should be 17 out of 30. And here, those that liked coffee is 4 out of 13. That means how many do not like coffee? So you subtract 4 from 13, then you get 9 out of 13. Okay, then you come to this one. If the liked coffee for female is 6 out of 17, those that do not like coffee, so from 17 subtract 6, you get 11 out of 17. So that is your completed tree diagram. Now, one of the students is selected at random. What is the probability that the student is male who liked coffee? Male and like coffee. Not male do not. So male like. That means he is M like, which is 13 over 30 times 4 out of 13. So that will be your answer. So you'll be having 13 out of 30 times 4 out of 13. If you multiply that, you get 2 out of 15. Okay, so we go to question 36. So the table shows the length of of 80 planes measured in millimeters. So we have the frequency and we have the cumulative. Remember, cumulative, we kept adding when we were doing this in class. We add the frequencies as we go until we get to the maximum. Okay, now for the first class we have 50 less than height and height less or equals to 55. The frequency is 5. That's why the cumulative is also just 5, because there's nothing to add to it. Here we don't know how many there are, but we know that the cumulative is 35. Now, which number did I add to 5 to give me 35? That should be 30. Okay, that means P should be 30. Then that means you have 5 plus 30, that gives me 35. If I add 20, I'll get 55. Now, which number should be here? The frequency is 10. What number should be there so that the Q here gives me the number before 80? So remember, our total here was 55. So plus 10, that should give me 65. And if I add 15, that will give me 30. Good. Go to the next one.